It's that time of the year where everybody's counting down the very best of one of the most notorious years in recent memory, but at least we got some cool games. And as late as this video is, and I apologize for it, I am finally here to talk about my 5 favorite games of 2016. Now, of course, this is a very subjective list, and it's also about video games. And video games are just a little bit expensive. They're a little bit harder to get access to in terms of playability, amount of time that you get to pour into them, and the financial gain in order to acquire such games. That obviously I'm not going to be able to get enough games to make a top 10, but I managed to dig my paws into enough games this past year to bring you at least a top 5 of 2016. So let's go ahead and get started with my honorable mentions, which are ironically the very last 2 games that I played recently. I was trying to make a last-ditch effort to play as much as I could before school started, before my schedule started to get packed with more hours at work, and I knew that after this point it was the cutoff point. I wasn't going to be able to play anything else from last year because I would have to rush through it and I have to squeeze it in through and not be able to enjoy games as much as I would love to. So I knew that school starting was the cutoff point, and right before school started I managed to play 2 games that didn't necessarily break my top 5 but did manage to get themselves considerably and honorably mentioned, and that is Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1. Both EA published games, and both were really good games, and in my opinion my favorite games out of those franchise, out of each respectable franchise. Battlefield 1 had a very unique single-player story mode that I really enjoyed and would love to revisit like a good old-fashioned book, and Titanfall 2 had a single-player campaign that I really liked, and the multiplayer is still cool. Still had some shortcomings for both, especially in the multiplayer department, that kept it from landing in my top 5 personally. So let's go ahead and kick things off with number 5, and that is Inside, one of the most revered games from last year. Everybody was just talking non-stop praise for this game. It was getting like non-stop 9 out of 10s and 10 out of 10s from various websites, various outlets. Everybody talking mad, crazy good shit about this game. So I knew that I needed to check it out at least by year's end, especially after hearing that it's only about 5 or 6 hours long, but it's like a very unique experience, very reminiscent of Journey or Flower, where it's a very short but very sweet experience. And I finally got to play it after a good old-fashioned sale where I managed to pour at least half the price, because I just don't feel too comfortable pouring $20 into a 5 or 6 hour game. Or actually I think this was shorter, it was like 3.5, 4 hours long, and I just didn't think that $20 sat very comfortable with me. But after finally acquiring it through a sale, I played through it, and it's definitely one of my favorite games from last year, but not necessarily in the high rankings of number 1 or number 2 or even number 3, only because the ending is not necessarily bad. It's very much conversation starter, but it kind of turned things around for me in a very awkward way. It definitely left me with a lot to think about, but thankfully the journey there, the atmosphere, the way that the puzzles are developed, as well as just the sheer emotion that you feel out of this setting and the backstory that you kind of get from this setting that is not necessarily spoon-fed to you through dialogue or through certain actions done by some of the characters. In fact, there's hardly any characters at all. You got this one little boy navigating through this environment that puts him in some of the most fucked up peril ever. I believe that this developer, I believe it's called Play Dead, is the developer. They're the guys behind Limbo, and they hate kids. After playing this game, I am convinced they hate kids. So you guys got my money already. Some of you may call this one overrated, especially after all the awards it's been winning recently. And for a slight fraction there, throughout the year, I was kind of with you. But then I played it, and I played it again. And then I found myself playing it again. After a week of putting it away, I popped it back into my PS4, and that is Overwatch. Overwatch is probably the game changer for me, because up until Overwatch, I was not necessarily a humongous fan of multiplayer only games. I don't have a single player, don't have a direct narrative. You just got these characters, you get to choose as one of the characters, and then you just jump in there with other players online and try to fight it out and see who wins. And up until Overwatch, I was never a fan of that, because for the most part, people would be ranked up higher than me. the skills matching wasn't as accurate as I was hoping for. And usually when I jump into these games, I jump into them a little too late because everybody has already leveled the shit up and I'm just right there being pummeled. And that's usually the case with an awful lot of shooter multiplayers. But Overwatch is the exception because there's really no such thing as leveling up in this game. Sure, you get some bonus skins, some sprays, some customary options, and you do get the little ranking number increasing every time you do level up and you get these level loot boxes, but your actual characters and their loadouts don't necessarily change. It's all up to you to really improve your skill here and here to become a better Overwatch player, and that's what gave Overwatch the strength it did this year. That and the porn. Dishonored II. This is a game that I'm just trying to squeeze in some time to revisit. Not only because the game was just that good, but also because it has some genuine replayability. It's that type of game that gives you so much freedom that there's various ways that things could play out. So obviously, as a gamer, it's your natural instinct to want to revisit it. And I'm not going to talk too much about it because I do in fact have a review, a full in-depth review for Dishonored 2. So if you guys have not watched that, please check it out on my channel. But all I'm going to say is that there are just so many ways that the ending could unfold, and considering that there's 2 characters that you could play as, definitely deserves not only a very high mention, but also worthy of your time to be revisited again and again. Number 2 is yet another very small game like Inside that I started to see pop up here and there during award season, and yet I kept hearing more and more of it. And eventually I found yet another sale, I bought it, I took the gamble, and I'm so glad I did because I'm in love with this game. It's called Firewatch. Firewatch is this first-person adventure game that, much like Inside, is very short. It's about 4.5 hours or so if you do some of the little bonus stuff. Plus, there's a little bit of a free roam exercise to it after you complete the main story. But much like Inside, it's able to tell a narrative that I was still thinking about way after I have finished playing the game. But unlike Inside, there is actual dialogue, there's voice actors, there's characterization, but there's something about this, the way that this story unfolds, that could have easily been a movie. But the fact that somebody took a gamble with the story and decided to make it interactive by making it a full-on game just made it even that much more memorable and that much more stronger, especially with the characters that feel like legitimate people, and that I just wanted I didn't want the game to end. That's when you know you made an amazing game, is that I didn't want it to end. So when the credits rolled, I felt a little sad because I was in love with the story, I was in love with these characters, that I'm hoping to replay the game. That not only am I hoping to revisit the game myself again, but this is the definitive game that almost to anybody you can go up to and be like, play this game. Even to people that aren't necessarily gamers, you can go up to them and be, at least play this one game. It's very short, you can probably beat it in a day, and trust me, you're gonna love it. And number 1. You guys know how much of a sucker I am for these genre-based things, and if you have been watching my videos from the get-go and you have seen the things that I mentioned, you probably already know what number 1 is by now. It's the one game that we were all waiting for, and at the same time we were dreading to finally finish because you knew it was going to be the end, at least for now. And that is A Thief's End, of course. Uncharted 4 is my number 1 game. The definitive ending to the franchise that left me wanting more, but I knew that it just needed to end at this perfect note with great narrative, great gameplay, cinematic storytelling through its visuals and the voice acting. But on top of that, it's a game that recently I saw some gameplay and I'm like, you know what? It's time to crack this bad boy up again and feel the feels and ride the adventure, traveling through the globe as Nathan Drake at least one more time, at least that one more fix before the Lost Legacy comes out, the DLC expansion with Chloe. I just need a jonesing for something Uncharted related before we finally get that, hopefully within the next few months. If you guys want to know more on my thoughts on Uncharted 4, then please check out my review earlier this year, as well as my spoiler talk on the story for Uncharted 4. And you can see those videos as well as my Dishonored 2 review by clicking on my channel name below, or just sticking around until the end of this video where I'll put up some annotations for you to watch those videos directly. And if you didn't manage to see your favorite game on this list, then that's probably because I didn't manage to get to it. Eventually time ran out, I didn't have the money. Games cost quite a bit, they're $60, sometimes $40 if I could find a discount, but eventually life catches up and you don't manage to play every single thing. I would have loved to have played Doom. I would have loved to play Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, Far Cry Primal, and many more, but that was all that I could muster. But thankfully made up a very good list that has me even hyped for more of the various awesome looking games that we have coming out in 2017. Red Dead Redemption 2, oh my god, please come out. Please come out this year. I already feel like it's not going to, but a boy can hope. Please let me know in the comments what your guys' favorite games of 2016 were. What are your most anticipated games of 2017? Like and share this video. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at DarkSpiderDavid. And of course, subscribe for more best of 2016 videos. Well, really, just one more, really, coming very soon. Top 10 movies, as well as various other things to look forward to in 2017, including video game related stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.